us women cultivate a community at the D&D table. I'm Soren.
And I'm Caitie. This week in the Rose Garden, we're talking about we're alchemizing a character again.
We're making a character for you.
I got self-conscious about the fact that I always say, and I'm Caitie. So I tried to switch it up, and then it scared me.
But I love that about you.
So I was like, now I got to make it. The only thing I can possibly change about how I do it is to make it shorter rather than longer.
I'm Caitie.
And then I got spooked. Anyway, we're doing a character alchemy. And today is a character that I think we might be equally familiar with, but I in our preliminary conversation, I get the sense that perhaps you have done more intense research about this particular character than I have.
I don't know. I think when I get interested in a character in media, I have a tendency to, what do I call it when I talk to TJ about it? I say something like, I tend to visually stim, and it's definitely like a hyperfixation like mode that I can get into, where I'm not just looking at like lore about them, but I look at like their cosplays. I look at fan art of them. I do look up lore stuff, but like I look at like how their cosplays are constructed, and then that leads to more lore stuff. And so like I look at so many different angles of a character. So maybe in that direction, maybe, but that's only because he became a hyperfixation and I love him.
So here's how this began. You might have heard of an Amazon Prime show called Hazbin Hotel. That's the property in which we are discussing.
That is
today.
the IP of the day.
Yeah. And how did I get to that? I don't quite remember how I discovered it, aside from it's just a thing that's been present on social media more actively in the last like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I binged the whole thing. And the cool thing about Hazbin Hotel, it's animated. It's an animated show about hell. And other things, but hell. And the cool thing is that it is largely voiced by Broadway people. And
Broadway adjacent people.
Or Broadway adjacent people, right? The Broadway proximity folks.
Proxima folk.
Yeah. And that's exciting because, you know, we watch a lot of animated stuff, and we like Critical Role, who do voice acting. And so I think it feels exciting when those two things cross, as far as like our interest in animated and voice acting, and then also our like Broadway musical theater things kind of crossed lanes.
And to like a small extent also the fact that it's geared towards adults. Like it's not supposed animation to be like a kiddo show. It is for adults.
It is for adults. So let's be so clear about that. I don't necessarily have as much contact with a lot of my former students as I have in the past. I don't know if you still listen to this. Hey, this is for adults, okay? Just being so clear. Technically, so is this podcast, and I don't know how you got here, but here's the deal. This show for adults. Okay, anyway, moving on. But
why did I just have I just had the phrase go through my head that was now that the adults are gone, what's up, you cool babies? No, what comes right before that line?
This show isn't for kids.
Right.
Which I mentioned only so the babies out there will know how cool they are for listening. What's up, you cool baby?
What's up, you cool babies?
Okay. Wow, I've listened to a lot of that. That came straight from the dome. Anyway.
I know.
So I binged the whole thing, and it was cool because there were Broadway people in it, and there were songs. It's a musical in that there are songs that are diegetic and all of that. And I, on one of our Buffy nights, had come over and said, hey, you people watched this yet? And both TJ and Soren were like, no. And I am aware of a certain vibe. I don't know if you're aware of this vibe. I'm aware of a certain vibe that is when I bring something to you and I'm like, y'all have to watch this. There can be sometimes a vibe that is, okay.
Mm-hmm. I feel the same way about you. So it is the real vibe because you also do it. But
and this one I said, no. No. This one's real. And so I don't even remember if it was that night or maybe a couple weeks after that I was like,
that night.
Was it that night?
It was, because we set up like a camp out in the living room and we made like huge.
It's just my computer.
Okay, scared the crap out of me. We set up like a camp out Buffy night and like made extra snacks and stuff. Right. So we were all like cozy on the floor.
Yeah. And so I was like, just listen.
She was like, shut up.
Just the first episode, okay? Like, just hear me out. Let me give you this first look. And I knew, because I'm smart cookie, I got big brain, big wrinkly brain, that
not smooth.
Right. That I was like, this first episode is all it's going to fucking take. And I'm going to say, and I was certain about that for Soren. I wasn't so certain about that for TJ, because I don't know how deep in the paint he gets for musicals, but like, I knew that this would be, I knew that this would be the first episode, first song would be enough for Soren to be like, cool, sounds good.
Katie's
just
like, easy
sign me
clap.
up. Yeah. So we watched the first episode, and indeed it was just that. And I think we even got to like the second episode in that sitting. Yeah. And funny enough, the character we're talking about today is Alastor.
Just say Alastor.
Okay.
Just American it up.
Yeah,
I think that's how they all pronounce it in the show.
Probably. And he's a little scary guy. And at first glance, Soren was like, no, thank you. He's scary.
He's so spooky.
Yeah. And hilariously enough, when I first watched it, I went, my boy. Yes, scary. Yes, good. Now, if this were Hazbin Hotel, the walk through haunted house at your local pumpkin patch, and there were live people playing these characters and they could get all up in my face, I would be like, no, thank you. I don't want that. But because it's on a screen and I can just go, it's fine.
Oh my gosh.
So we're talking about Alastor.
So today we're going to talk about Alastor.
From Hazbin Hotel.
From Hazbin Hotel. And we'll put him on the screen here in a second, but I'm just going to pull up my sketchbook because I have that readily available.
Wow.
But here's Spooky Boy.
There he is.
A little spook.
What's he the overlord of?
Who's been here since day one? That was the line I wrote. He's one of the overlords of hell. I can't remember which area of hell.
Sure you do.
No, I really don't.
That's one song.
I mean the radio, but like okay, but I was thinking
He's
like
the radio demon.
I was like, what's your dominion? Like as in plot of land, not airwaves. So
I mean,
it is his like kind plot of land. But yes, Alastor is known as the radio demon. And fun fact about Alastor, he was a serial killer in real life. He was born,
now, okay, hang on. Sorry, pause. This is what I meant when I said you did more research than me, because I watched the show and said, cool guy. And then Soren said, cool guy. Let me read about the inner workings of cool guy.
Yeah, my friend says scary guy, and then says cool guy, and then says your teeth are spooky, and then says you have some weird little antlers. What's that about? Well, he was shot on accident. Yep, he was mistaken for a deer.
Where did you find this?
This,
What?
that, and the other.
Sorry, while I frantically scroll through the Hazbin Hotel wiki trying to figure out which paragraph it says he was shot because he was a deer, but not really.
The lore that I found on the wiki and on some other like Reddit sites that just are like discussing the show in general. Some of it's confirmed. I think some of it is like headcanon that people are trying to like sort through. But some of the lore is that Alastor was born to a Creole family in Louisiana, and he became a serial killer in Louisiana, and that is one of the gravest sins that like landed him in hell in general. So when he died, and when people die in the Hazbin Hotel universe, if they go to hell, their demon form takes on a certain persona in their from their life to their death. So we've got characters like Alastor, who is mistaken for a deer, so he has a lot of deer imagery. The character Angel, he is technically a spider. His whole family is were thought to be like gangsters, and that's like a typical icon for gangster families is a spider. So that's fun.
Sorry, still just trying to find the article where it says all of that. Not that I disbelieve you, but that I would like to also just read it. I don't know.
Yeah, feel free. So I'm going to talk while Katie's looking for some of that. I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to just talk a little bit about what I like about him. So something that I am really drawn to and really enjoy about the character of Alastor is his very clear faux-sona, as it were. Alastor constantly has this like giant smile plastered across his face, and it is purely like a facade, like for the purpose of not showing his hand, not showing you how he's feeling. He kind of adopts this never let them see you stumble, never let them see you falter, and then they can't control you kind of attitude towards most of the characters. And when he like, especially when he has like a pretty, I don't want to say deep, but like has a come to Jesus talk with Charlie in the series. So I really like that about him. I can't remember the exact line. I don't want to get copyright infringed upon.
I don't think that a line is not going to do it. I'm reading a thing just so I can contribute somehow. It says he's a powerful sinner overlord of the Ring of Pride.
Oh, okay. See, that's the thing that I don't know, because that makes sense, like the 9 rings of hell, but that makes sense. Pride would also make sense for him because of the constant like facade that he has up.
Yeah.
Katie's like, okay.
I'm laughing because I wrote 4 things that I like about Alastor, and they're not insignificant.
Yeah.
But
none of what I just said.
Yours is much more detailed.
Why don't you talk about a couple of yours while I look for this line?
Great, because I watched the show and went spooky and songs and then I said, well, they'll tell me more when I'm supposed to know more. Season 2 we'll probably get some more in backstories and stuff like that. And
I said now.
Yeah. Okay, anyway. Oh wait, I'm gonna say these 2. I'm gonna say my first 2. And remember that Soren's was like this like alluring facade, right? The first thing I like about Alastor, he's spooky. So
it's true guy. And it's true. And I also agree that he's
just spooky guy.
Yeah, but he's the kind of spooky that like actually makes me like go, don't do that. Like, and I enjoy it, but it's like he's terrifying. He's Spooki Guy.
Yeah, Spooki Guy. Second thing, he's mysterious. So, mysterious Spooki Guy. You don't really know what's going on with him. And it leaves a lot of questions.
Go on.
Do you want my third thing?
Yeah.
He's powerful. So, he's got a lot of power.
He does. So much so that he, for those who haven't seen the show yet, he is so powerful that he is able to completely renovate and adjust and fix the hotel for Charlie's sake. For those who haven't seen Hazbin Hotel, this is not a spoiler really, because it's the point of the show. Charlie Morningstar, Lucifer, yes, that Lucifer's daughter, is trying to run a hotel to reform sinners so that they can have a shot at a better life. And Alastor enters into a business contract with her. And I wish they would have, I'm just going to get into
do it.
The animation things. I'm really sad. I love the YouTube pilot, but I'm really sad that's not part of the like Amazon IP, if that makes sense, because the pilot is so helpful for setting up Alastor's relationship with Charlie. And when we see it just on Amazon, I was kind of confused about where the he came from. I was like, what are you? But the pilot gives just the tiniest bit more like help for that.
I might be mistaken, but I had thought that the pilot is still canon.
It is.
It's just not on Amazon. So like if you went to YouTube and watched the pilot, it is accurate to the current story.
Yeah,
they used it as a jumping off point. It's just not on the like catalog of episodes on Amazon. So if you are like Soren and you watched the first episode and like, who's this guy? What's his deal? You could go back. You could go back and watch the pilot, and that is your like prequel, if you will.
Yeah. And that's my gripe, is that I wish it was part of the Amazon canon, but like I know that. Well, I don't know, but I assume in the writing it for Amazon, getting it all like nice and buffed and shined to be like a bigger project, that they like went ahead and just started with the next part. And it's people like me will have no problem being like, oh, I'm just gonna tippy tappy and go find it.
And I have seen parts of the pilot. I did not watch the pilot in full. But like also there are maybe more than two camps of people, but in this podcast there are two camps of people. There are the people that watched it and went, what the hell is his deal? And how do I find out more about that? And then she went and did that. And then there's the other camp of people that went, spooky, mysterious guy, and it was fine.
Yes, that's correct. You're right.
So, I mean, I think either is appropriate, and if you find yourself in my camp, cheers. We like our spooky, mysterious guy, and they'll tell us more later when we need to know.
For those listening, if you can align with either of us, I love that, and you probably do align with one of us. But if you were a Y kid, you get it.
My authority figures tell me exactly what I need to know when I need to know it. So,
no. But I know exactly what you mean, though, because there are certain circumstances where I definitely am just like, okay, like that's all the info I needed. But yeah, it is when it comes to animation and my like special interests that I'm like, but why? Yeah. Okay, so I think I found the line. Just give me a sec.
Oh, right.
I just want to pause it in the right spot. There it is. Scared the shit out of me. Okay.
I don't hear it.
Suffering so much.
Okay. I'll leave the captions up.
Just because you see a smile, don't think you know what's going on underneath. A smile is a valuable tool, my dear. It inspires your friends, keeps your enemies guessing, and ensures that no matter what comes your way, you're the one in control.
spooky boy. But yeah, right? Like
he's manipulative.
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of his whole thing.
Yeah. But I love that moment because up until that point, most of the group and Charlie has been
She said
has kind of just been like, okay, yeah, like Alastor's weird, but that's just him. And at this moment, Charlie is like, you know what? This is difficult, and all you do is sit around and smile. And he's like, and I love that moment. So yes, to like further agree with Caitie, he's spooky, he's mysterious, and he's powerful.
I like that this makes less sense with the context that Soren has provided, but one of the things that I, without doing all of the research, that I felt was like, you know so little about who he is and what his whole deal is.
Yeah.
And I like that. Yeah. Because it leaves room for like wondering and being like, nobody just does stuff because, especially in this show, there's like stuff going on in the background.
Even in our last episode where we were talking about alignment, like no one does stuff just because. Right. Even neutral people have a reason for doing something. Right. And Alastor is a very good example of that.
Right. So it's like one of the first things that came up for me was his relationship with Vox and like what's up with that. You know, and
that was the first song you showed us was Stayed Gone.
It's on the top of my list of favorites.
Same here. And what I loved about when Caitie showed us that song, we were listening to it and Caitie was going back and forth between, okay, now that's the radio demon, okay, now that's the TV demon, okay, now, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. That whole thing, like there's a lot of this show has a significant amount of world building that's not just like explained to you. It's just like you're coming in the middle of it and it's already happening and you find things out as you go, not necessarily from the perspective of Charlie, just like in general. This is a world that's already in progress and you are finding things out a little bit at a time from a lot of different people's perspectives. And I enjoyed the fact that Alastor, even if you haven't watched the pilot, Alastor is clearly her like mentor's not the word I'm looking for.
Stand-in dad.
No, like investor. He's like giving her supplies. He's giving her resources that she didn't already have. Yeah. And so that's established from the beginning, and you can tell that he's got something going on. Like he's at least sort of powerful because he's been able to do, you know, the stuff with the hotel, and he clearly like kind of knows more than Charlie, like as far as like age, expertise, things like that. Yeah. And then you get that whole thing with Vox and the V's, and you're like, first of all, who are the V's? What is this whole thing? You know, like it's like overlords. It's just like the whole thing is the show asking you to just accept that this is the way the world works currently. And Alastor is no exception to that. And as you go through it, and we're getting into a little bit of a spoiler territory, but like as you get into it, like Alastor's been gone for a while, and like what's that about? And then but he's back now, and that seems to be a problem for some reason, at least for Vox. And then is that just like a metaphor for TV and radio, or like what's going on there? And then he like is protective of this group all of a sudden towards the end, and like is actually being helpful and not just like very spike coded of like, I'll help you when I feel like it. And then he like stuff happens there too. And you're like, oh, now he's back somewhere, but like where is somewhere? And you also like come to find out that maybe he's got like a deal with another demon, but then
That is a spoiler.
he also has a deal with one of our buddies in our group and has control over that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a tangled web, and you don't, I think on purpose, don't know a lot about what's going on.
Yeah, I really like I'll try to be as vague with it as possible, but it is partially spoiler. I mean, love the rock in a hard place that Alastor kind of finds him in, because finds himself in, because he makes pacts with other demons, or he has the ability to make deals with them so that he rules over them, but there is somebody that rules over him.
Yeah, right.
And there's someone pulling his strings and probably encouraging whatever motives he has with the rest of the hotel.
Right.
And that's what I haven't like dove super far into, but I have read stuff online. But I won't get super deep into it. But it is something I'm excited to learn more about as the seasons come out.
I think we've said this for every character alchemy. Like, we're pulling apart a character, and to do that, we have to talk about the body of work that they reside in. So, like, we've done spoilers for Buffy. We did spoilers for Laura Olympus, spoilers for Steven. If at this point you're listening to this and you haven't watched Hazbin, like, we have to talk about the body of work, and to do that, we have to talk about the characters. So spoilers, spoilers abound. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, it makes me think at one point, and I think we kind of let go of this, but at one point we were talking about Tisiphone and Reese and the fact that they're devils, and the fact that devils get power. Yes, Soren.
Just remind everybody who that is if someone hasn't heard of them before. Who are those fancy people?
We talk about them like every episode.
Yeah, but what if someone's brand new?
Then go listen to the last episode. There are TJ and I's D&D characters. But regardless, when we were talking about them, we had started to talk about how devils require pacts and deals to have power. So early on in that character creation process, we had talked about, is that maybe a mechanic that TJ and I have to work to make deals with people to level up and to gain more power? And I think eventually, I know, we let go of that because that's complicated. But it makes me think. It makes me think of Hazbin in that, like, somebody needed power, made a pact with Alastor when he needed assistance. And then he makes pacts with people to gain power for himself. It's all a power control game, you know?
Yeah, and his whole, like, we briefly said that he's the radio demon, but genuinely, like, he became an overlord and so feared because he was trying to assert his power. And he was like a serial killer in life and in death. He started killing demons just to be like,
see,
what did I tell you? And then broadcast it to everyone.
It's funny, I pulled up this medium.com article to try to find all the stuff that you were
that I was spouting off.
And one of the highlighted quotes that they said is that just because you see a smile, don't think you know what's going on underneath. A smile is a valuable tool, my dear. It inspires your friends, keeps your enemies guessing, and ensures that no matter what comes your way, you're the one in control.
I think it's a very clever, I like this perspective he's trying to offer, where it's like, instead of, well, sweet pea, you should smile more. Like, it would be fine. It's like, use it as a weapon. Totally. And I like that.
If we're talking about musicals, it makes me think of Hamilton.
Sure.
Talk less, smile more. Very Aaron Burr of you, Alastor.
Yes. How very Aaron Burr of you.
He's controlling people's perceptions. By always putting a very curated view forward. This Medium article also goes into whatever that deal is that he makes, and I'm assuming the most popular headcanon is Charlie's mom.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think I need to keep saying it, but spoilers abound. If you don't want to know this,
we're gonna put up like a woo.
if you don't want to know stuff, you probably should have paused the minute we told you what we were talking about. But if you have somehow made it here and you're like, don't tell me stuff, I want to go watch it, go ahead and give it a pause and go binge the whole thing and then come back.
And then come back and finish this.
So in this Medium article that was published, give all the credit, March 3rd, 2024, by the Giraffe Typos. Okay. It talks about Alastor's breakdown in the finale. Wow, I'm reading some of this for the first time, so bear with me.
Sure.
When examining Alastor's breakdown in the finale, notice how his ears go down when he says, "Guess who will be pulling all the strings?" He's part deer, and when deer do that, it means they're afraid. Now, note that he has almost never done this. This was also the only moment he did this throughout his breakdown. What I make of it is that he was in shock and trying to convince himself he still has everything under control, but when he finally considers to break free, he's actually afraid. He obviously has something to lose.
He puts his ears down 3 or 4 times in the show. But they're all in those instances. And one of them is when he's singing Hell's Greatest Dad with Lucifer. It's because he feels threatened.
Right.
So right. That makes sense, but it's very good. It's a very good point.
Whilst it's very obvious his power and reputation are extremely important to him, he never showed fear in losing it up until now. Is he afraid of the holder of his leash realizing that he might be too weak? And so that goes into the deal. Many have speculated his arrival to the hotel was due to a deal he made with Lilith. This person says, I mean, it would make sense, right? Both have been missing for 7 years, and coincidentally, Alastor appears just after Charlie sends her mother a voice note in the pilot. But what if it wasn't Lilith he was leashed to? Firstly, it seems Charlie would send those messages to her mom with regularity due to her choice of words. So although it may be used as foreshadowing as us readers, it is far from enough evidence. Consider the final scene in the whole first season when Lute speaks to Lilith, or Eve, as some speculated. She says this: Adam is dead. Your deal is done. I'm in charge now. Your brat is threatening the very foundation of heaven. And if you want to stay here, you're going to, if you want to stay here, you're going down there and stopping that bitch. Do you understand me, Lilith? It seems Lilith had a deal with Adam. Your deal is done. Sounds like Lilith has the upper hand over Adam, possibly making a deal with him that he didn't consider very well to make her more powerful than him in some way. But then Luke commands her to do something about Charlie and makes me wonder, could she also be on a leash? Perhaps the same leash as Alastor. This might be a stretch, but they might even have made a deal with God. Who knows? Interesting. I've not ever read any of this. This is the first time that I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, let it sink in. I tend to lean towards the camp that it's not Lilith that Lute is talking to, and that lean comes from looking at the original comic and looking at a ton of the original art and how Lilith gets depicted. She always gets depicted with a pearl necklace. Always. Like that is her like icon piece, and she is not wearing that in that scene. And so a lot of people were like, so I don't know, but it and I could totally be wrong, and Amazon could have been like, get over it, she's not wearing a pearl necklace. But I tend to lean towards that because character iconography is very important when it comes to storytelling. So I don't know. That's just the direction I lean. But I am interested to know about this web of deals with Adam and Lute and Lilith or Eve or God.
Really, any of them. Yeah.
All of them.
Really, just all of them. Yeah, there's like a lot going on there. And that just like makes me, because season 2, have they put out like a drop date for that? Or do we just know it's like sometime?
I think we know it's just greenlit, but let me double check.
I am interested to see what thread they pull next.
It's expected early to mid 2025.
Okay, that's not that far off. I know Erica Henningston, right?
Henningsen.
Has been doing a lot of cons and talking about it and stuff like that. So anyway, that's what we like about Alastor. Is there anything else you want to say about what you like about Alastor?
It's more of a visual thing that I enjoy about him, and I just saw it here on my YouTube search. When he gets like enraged, his physical being like adjusts for the occasion. So he goes from, I just want to find 2 pictures and show it. Let's see. Alastor. I was almost gonna be like, Alastor normal.
Alastor normal, Alastor pissed. So
okay, here is Mr. Ding Dong normal. All right, so we've got normal.
There he is.
And then we've got normal. I'm gonna
pissy.
Get you
yeah,
so mad.
Here I come.
And then these eyes are what scare the crap out of me.
The dials.
Yes, and I love the like callback. Well, it's more just like an homage to like that time period and that retro clock cat. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Had eyes like that.
Yeah.
So spooky.
I'm going to say one last thing. And again, this makes more sense if you haven't done a million steps of research. But I had originally put down open book past in that and we'll get into the mechanics of this, but it just occurred to me how does one, there's a couple ways of playing mysterious, it could be and you don't tell, or it could be that you don't know and you leave a lot of open blanks in your backstory sort of a thing for the DM to fill in. And so it just occurred to me that based on how he is portrayed in the episode catalog on Amazon, there's just a lot of blank spots. And it could be that Alastor knows those blank spots and just isn't sharing, but what if he also just doesn't remember? And there could be capital T trauma about that, or it could just be that he has amnesia, you know what I mean? And just doesn't remember. So that was the last thing that I wrote in my, aside from spooky, mysterious, and powerful, those very big and meaningful pillars of his character creation. I also just wrote that he has somewhat of an open book past that could be filled in throughout the show or throughout a campaign if you were building a character him.
I like that idea. I think, I think that's interesting.
Shall we roll with it?
Let's.
All right. We're doing Would You Rather in real life today. There's a dice. She has one.
Ready?
Uh-huh.
8.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Would you rather have all traffic lights you approach be green or never have to stand in line again?
Never have to stand in line again.
Okay. Would you like to provide a rationale on that?
I feel like when I get in my car to go to a place, I am already expecting traffic lights to behave as they do. But even if you leave early for something, even if you think there might be a line, at an office you're trying to visit, the hope is always I really hope there isn't a line. I hope it's easy to get through the line. So I'd rather deal with that, not having to wait in line. That'd be so good.
Yeah.
Your turn.
I think I agree. Generally in the car, I'm listening to something.
Yes.
And that's fine. So if I have to spend too much time in the car, I'm like, whatever, because I'm listening to something that I want to be listening to.
Yep.
Now, I have interacted with enough people who hate car rides that I think they would rather have all lights be green. But
Are
I
these
could
your cats or
No, it's Alec Talbot.
oh, okay.
But like I could also be putting words in his mouth that he would not agree with.
Sure.
I'm thinking of places that like traffic is bad all the time.
Yeah.
Like in those bigger cities where like
that's fair.
it takes you an hour to get anywhere all the time.
Where it feels like it's worthless to own a car.
Right. Where I would rather stand in a line, but I would like to be able to drive more efficiently.
Yeah.
I don't know. Great. Well, that
wow.
was roll with it. We did roll with it. So
that was easy peasy, and no reverse mermaids were created in the making of this roll with it today.
And that's how we know it's going to be a good day.
I don't know about that.
No, it will be. No, it's gonna.
No, it'll be great.
No, it's gonna be great. Okay, so let's talk about making Alastor a D&D character. Not making Alastor a D&D character, but making a D&D character that is inspired by Alastor.
Right.
I have a thought. Like that brewed the minute I started to sit down to think about Alastor, and was affirmed by the last thing you brought up about his form changing. I'm going to pull it up quickly so that I am certain that I'm saying things accurately, because that's important.
I guess.
It is. No, it is. It is a warlock.
Okay.
The undead patron.
Because staff. Ooh.
Because it, and the reason I thought of this was Laudna.
Okay.
She gets a form of dread.
Yeah.
And she's talked about how the form of dread, like a veil comes over her eyes and her like limbs get really spindly and she grows and like all of this kind of stuff. So it seems to me that he could be a warlock with the undead. The undead is an entity that resides in the dark corners of the multiverse. Your patron could be, and they, give a bunch of suggestions. You may seek to gain knowledge from your patron's countless lifetimes of experience, while it may see you as a piece of a centuries-long plan. And in Critical Role, Laudna's patron is Delilah. She is undead. And Laudna herself is a hollow one, meaning that she herself is also undead. But in this, you get first level spells, Bane and False Life. Second level spells, blindness, deafness, phantasmal force. Third, Speak with Dead, Phantom Steed. Fourth, Death Ward, Greater Invisibility. Fifth, Anti-Life Shell and Cloud Kill. Yeah.
I like all of this so much.
Your form of dread, you manifest an aspect of your patron's dreadful power. As a bonus action, you transform for 1 minute. You gain the following benefits while transformed. You gain temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your warlock level. Once during each of your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack, you can force it to make a wisdom saving throw. And if the saving throw fails, the target is frightened of you until the end of your next turn, and you are immune to the frightened condition. There's also a bunch of other things. Now, Laudna is multi-classed. She is a warlock, this patron, but she's also a sorcerer with shadow magic.
I don't think I knew that.
So, and that's because she has a Hound of Ill Omen.
Yeah.
And that's from that.
Yeah.
So you are a creature of shadow, for your innate magic comes from the Shadowfell itself. You might trace your lineage to an entity from that place, or perhaps you were exposed to its fell energy and transformed by it. The power of shadow magic casts a strange pall over your physical presence. the spark of life that sustains you is muffled, as if it struggles to remain viable against the dark energy that imbues your soul. At your option, you can pick from or roll on the Shadow Sorcerer quirks table to create a quirk for your character. And those quirks are like, you're always icy cold to the touch. When you're asleep, you don't appear to breathe. You barely bleed even when badly injured. Your heart beats once per minute. This event sometimes surprises you. You have trouble remembering that living creatures and corpses should be treated differently. You blinked once last week. Anyway,
you blinked one time last week.
Yeah. And you get like Eyes of the Dark, Strength of the Grave, Houndville Omen, Shadow Walk, things like that.
Yeah.
Tisiphone is a shadow magic sorcerer.
Yeah.
So Laudna has both of these things. And I do like, that's kind of what I thought a form of dread was. For some reason, I thought that was a part of that sorcerer thing. So that's what I had originally thought for Alastor, but I think Warlock makes sense given his pact with this person and the form of dread.
Yeah. I'm still taking all of that in, and I think that fits that fits all of this really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Especially I'm thinking like, because we're not making Alastor specifically, but an Alastor flavored character, that whatever your form of dread is, it'd be really cool from like a character just crafting standpoint and kind of backstory area, if whatever that form of dread was, like you connect it to like maybe like, I don't know, like a traumatic event that happened to your character, or like maybe something that they were afraid of, a la like Batman kind of like idea. Like I think that would I would go even further mileage wise and be really cool.
I will say that Laudna's form of dread has evolved over time. So it could also be like, because this discuss your like an aspect of your patron's power. So the more, and spoilers for campaign 3, she's got in with Delilah, the more her form of dread looks like Delilah. And so her like sense. She like gets a high collar, like Delilah's high collar. You see her choker. You see like parts of Delilah come out. So I think the form of dread, and I say this mainly because this is how it seems like Marisha has taken it, is like a way to get really creative about how it's like almost like a physical aspect of your character, just like you would give your character clothes to wear or an appearance. Like your form of dread is another creative way to like give hints to a backstory, or kind of like Soren was talking about with Alastor, like, why has he got antlers? What's that?
Why he got ears?
Why he got ears? Who has those?
They are deer ears, but yeah.
But it's like if you are taking the aspect of like, I have parts of my backstory that I'm not going to share as the mysterious aspect. That's like a way to like give like, so DM, I take my form of dread, and that looks like, and then you put in some creative flavor as to like what is up with your character without like necessarily saying it outright.
There's something that I was thinking about while you were discussing all of these details, and I can't remember, do any of the magic users in D&D, do warlocks require a staff of some sort, or none of the magic users require like a thing?
A lot of the spellcasters require an arcane focus of some sort.
Okay. This is probably just because I don't play them ever. I'm trying to say words, not working. I love this idea of him being a warlock and a magic user in general, because he still has like his microphone. So like this is not Alastor,
right?
But if you used the idea of having something like that and like look at the relationship between Alastor and his microphone, because fun fact, it blinks and he talks with it.
Mhm.
So like having this magic item, maybe it's not possessed or anything, but maybe there is something about it that, yes, helps your magic, helps your class and all that, but is this other little piece of you that, like your form of dread, you can use to kind of nod toward some of your backstory as well.
Yeah, yeah. And with like the demon part, you could do something infernal like a tiefling.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you are wanting to lean into the like deer thing, you could
Mhm.
make him a fawn, and be kind of fern adjacent.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about Alastor is that he has very clear identifiers that have very clear, or will, I'm assuming eventually have, or if you do all the research, have very clear reasons for it. So like his deer iconography, there's like something about that. And the microphone, like there's something about that. So
Mhm.
I think the key to creating a character like Alastor is to be intentional about everything.
Mhm.
So if you're going to create a fawn, cool, but like there's a reason for that.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a fawn. Like
right,
maybe it's a different animal, or maybe it's a different like race type. But
right.
like Katie said, yes, like I think, sometimes we recommend to keep it simple, but if you want to make a character like Alastor, that is probably a time to not keep it simple and to be as intentional as possible.
Yeah, and detailed to a point, like for a reason.
Yeah.
So it's not just like I'm creating a tiefling for the sake of tiefling. It's like I'm creating a tiefling because he's a demon, and
Mhm.
this demon is rooted in the level of pride in hell, and
Mhm. Mhm.
he has a staff that is such and such. I mean, the other thing about this is that Alastor is like really old, right?
Mhm.
So like there's kind of like Prim, there's a lot of backstory because he's been around for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
So this kind of a character they're not newborn baby adventuring for the first time.
Yeah.
This would be a character in your party that is experienced, that is
Yeah.
of the more experienced members of your party,
Mhm.
and has like some baggage that in this kind of scenario is like he's got baggage that he's not telling about
Mhm.
on purpose because he's trying to control people's perceptions.
Mhm.
And the closer he keeps his cards, the more control he has over the situations he's in.
I think there are a lot of really fun role play opportunities within that. Really challenging yourself to control how much information you're giving to your party, and also trying to play around with manipulating your party members, like all for the sake of like role playing and like telling this story, right? Like we it might be something that you need to like I would say, like, as far as your DM goes, I would just give them a heads up, and you don't have to give away everything, but I would give them just a little nod that like, hi, I will be like leaning into this.
Yeah.
What was your with that?
My thought was like treat your DM like your doctor. Like your DM, don't lie to your DM. Your DM should have all the information.
Yes.
And then you lie to your party, kind of a thing.
Yep.
It also makes me think of when you were saying controlling the information. Marisha was pretty forward with her stuff, like kind of out the gate. A little bit, I think, also because she was excited for the rest of the party to know that her connection was Delilah, because that was like a long-standing relationship with this character from campaign to campaign. But it made me think of Ford and Ukatoa and how he, like, his voice changed. Like there was a lot of mystery around like what his whole deal was for a long time. Yeah. And from Ford's perspective, it was more of like I don't really know what I've done or what this means, and I'm freaked out by it, and I'm insecure about it, so I'm just not going to talk about it. And I'm going to put on a very specific persona, which is I've got my shit together and I'm like the fucking leader. And you come to find out halfway through the campaign that like homeboys being told things that maybe aren't the best, you know, like, and he's putting orbs in his stomach and, you know, whatever. But it made for a really cool shift then when he like, spoilers for campaign 2 when he like threw the falchion in the lava and like there was a whole thing about that. So like, if you can figure out how to do it, I'm that high. I'm bad at keeping secrets. I want everyone to know all my shit.
Know everything. Know it now.
I'm excited about it and I want someone else to be excited about it with me. So like I would struggle with this to an extent. And I struggled with this to an extent with our own campaign as far as Tisiphone went, because like I was like, I am excited about this new character and I have to play this glamored version, and I'm like kind of over this glamored version and I just want to play my character. But if you can figure out how to be sneaky, like there is a narrative payoff for the party at large, for the story at large also, if you can figure out how to be fucking chill
sneaky
about
little
it.
sneak.
Instead of, I don't know, word vomit nightmare.
Oh my god, I'm a demon. Yeah, it would be a struggle for me too, but it sounds like the kind of challenge that I think would keep me very engaged.
Yeah, right, sure.
Would keep me very on my toes, because honestly, I think I would start to struggle with, crap, did I already say that? Crap, have I told them this already? Crap, like keeping track of everything. So I would need to like keep a notebook of like, you just told the party this. Don't tell them anything else yet.
Right. I think that would also be easier if you met more frequently than we did.
You're right.
Because you wouldn't have to remember from month to month whether or not something has left your mouth.
Yeah, you're right.
For Warlocks, technically charisma is the highest ability score, followed by constitution, which also makes sense for Alastor. And technically you choose for this quick build, you choose the charlatan background with Eldritch Blast and Chill Touch cantrips.
Can you imagine Alastor saying like, Eldritch Blast?
Yeah, right. I would like to Eldritch Blast, please. Yeah, so Undead, Patron, Warlock, or if you want the multi-class, pulling the Latna multi-class of Shadow Sorcerer makes for a pretty spooky demon. And then your race or species, whatever we're calling it now, it makes a lot of sense for that to be intentional to whatever your backstory is, whether that is, if you're thinking of somebody who has died and gone to hell, it could be a class that reflects something of your living time. Or it could be something, you know,
completely
maybe
unrelated.
less intense than that. I think a hollow one could also be interesting as far as like a dead person. But I liked the shadow quirks for the sorcerer of like being icy cold, or like not appearing to breathe, or you know, stuff like that.
Blinking once a week.
Right. That could give a undead vibe without taking an undead race.
Without being like, they're gray and their skin is falling off and they're zombie looking. And
right.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Anything else mechanically that you want to talk about with?
I don't think so. I think this is great.
Yeah.
I love this idea, and now I want to don't run, don't walk, run to make this character.
Yeah,
make a character like it.
I play a warlock in our Witchlight campaign. Remember that? And my warlock is a genie. And I
Your
liked...
patron is a genie.
That's what I meant. Yeah. But I liked... Part of why I went into a warlock is liking the complexity and the lack of control from a player's perspective of a warlock, in that the DM gets to pull some strings sometimes as to like what you are allowed and not allowed to do. And like with Laudna, Delilah's a ass and like feeds her shit all the time. And so like you can talk with your DM about how healthy or not healthy this warlock patron relationship is. Like with my genie relationship, we're like buds. Like it was Did you see that? Did you see
what?
I did. Yeah, there it goes.
Okay. Why? It went behind your chair too.
Nice. Okay, well now we know. But yeah, when I talked to TJ about my relationship with the genie, it was much more like I was a poor little sad orphan, and this genie kind of took me under his wing and was like, listen, I don't normally make deals with children because that's like ethically not great. But you need some help and I want to help you. So like
you're in bad spot.
Yeah. So this is like, so it is like a different relationship, but you could make that relationship with your patron be kind of ooky, and something where like in Laudna's situation, Delilah's like, you want power and I'll give you that power. Or she'll say like, gosh, they just don't understand us. Even when Delilah's like this huge asshole that like
built different.
Right. And it takes her party, sees that this is like an unhealthy, toxic relationship, and it's like, hey, Delilah lies to you. And then there's like an interpersonal relationship where like Laudna has to decide who she trusts more, Delilah or her friends. And Delilah's in her head 24/7. And so it makes that decision really hard. So there's like some cool narrative. What I'm trying to say is there's some cool narrative stuff with a patron that you could play into with something like this.
Agreed.
So anyway. That is it for us this week. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks to Noah Trumbull for the use of our theme song. There's a link to his Instagram in the episode description. I haven't heard a lot about his band recently, but I have to assume that they're still killing it out there. Because what else is there to do but kill it? So listen to his body of work and follow him on Instagram to see what cool stuff he's up to.
Yeah, and if you're enjoying the show, there are a couple things we'd love if you do. First and foremost, please leave us a review on whatever you happen to be watching or listening to this podcast on, just because reviewers help others find us so that we can grow the garden even bigger than it already is. Second, if you'll follow us on some of our social platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, not X, Twitter, whatever, so that you can be up to date and the first to know when a new episode drops. And also we like to talk with y'all in the comments.
Yeah. We also want to hear from you in that we have an email. It's chromaroses@gmail.com, CHROMARSES@gmail.com. It's all lowercase. Although I will say our YouTube comments, I'm not going to say have been popping off. But they've been active, which is exciting.
Yeah, we've had some really good conversations in YouTube comments. So please come join us over there if you want.
Yeah. If you're somebody who only listens to us auditorily, that's great and good. If you're somebody that's like, I listen auditorily, but I wish I could talk to somebody about these episodes, pop over to YouTube because people are talking. So... but if you're like, that's too public and I don't want anyone to see my deep thoughts that I have to give, you can just send us an email. And then the only people that will see it is me and Soren. And we won't tell anybody what you say.
No,
we won't tell anyone.
Unless you ask us to, but we won't.
But we'll keep it private. So if you want to tell us about how Alastor is a hottie McHotterson that you love, like that's safe with us in our email inbox, okay? It's a safe space.
This has been
There it is.
Chromatic Roses. I'm
And I'm Caitie. Fight evil. Love others.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
We'll do it.